Welcome guys. Before us we have biology paper 1 for the year 2020 for the internal. So we have question 1. So under question 1 we are told a living organism absorbs glucose. So we have the first statement. So to absorb we are looking at nutrition. So the process of obtaining food from the environment. Then we have releases energy in its cells. So this has to be respiration. And then passes out carbon dioxide. So the carbon dioxide is considered to be the waste product. So this should be excretion. Which characteristics of living things are described in the statement above? So excretion, yes. Growth, no. Nutrition, yes. Respiration, yes. So the answer here is just A. We move on to question 2. So question 2 we are told 3 cell structures are listed below. We have cell. Cell is only present in plant cell. Remember that. Then we have cytoplasm can be found in both animals. Both animal cell and plant cell. So is nucleus. Which structures are found in both palisade cells and liver cells? So a palisade cell is a plant cell. Then this is an animal cell. So the structures that can be found in both plant cell and animal cell are cytoplasm and nucleus. So we'll say 2 and 3. We move on to question 3. The diagram below shows a piece of whisking tubing containing the starch suspension placed in a beaker of pure water. Saliva was added to the starch and the experiment was left for 2 hours. So remember, saliva is a digestive fluid that contains enzymes like salivary amylase. Now let's look at the illustration. So at the beginning, this is where the level of the starch suspension was. But after 2 hours, we can see that there was a rise of the suspension. Then from there, we can also see that in this whisking tube, we had the starch. But after 2 hours, sugar was present in the pure water. So what does this experiment show? So what this experiment shows is that the sugar or the glucose dissolved. As it dissolved or it breaks down, then it moved by the process of diffusion, since sugar is in particles, from the whisking into pure water. So for this one, the best answer is A. Saliva is a solvent for starch. So since it's a solvent for starch, it makes the starch to dissolve, and therefore we had the process of diffusion. We move on to question number 4. Which of the following is true about enzymes? So number 1, they are sugars, no. Enzymes are proteins in nature. Effective at pH 7, no. Enzymes, we have enzymes with the acidic pH, some with the basic pH, some at neutral. So this is not true. So the only answer is B. Why? They are not sugars. They cannot only be effective at pH. Then they catalyze one reaction. That's why we say they are specific. So that is true. We move on to question 5. Chemical tests were carried out on a food sample in solution. The table below shows some results. So the test we have burette, then the result purple color. So whenever you have a purple color, burette has a blue color. So whenever it changes into purple, then the result is positive. So proteins were present. Then ethanol, we have white emulsion, so even here is positive. Now iodine, brown color, so this is negative. It means starch was absent, so we have a negative feedback. So for fat is tested by using ethanol. So fat present, protein present, starch present. So the answer is B. Fat present, yes. Protein present, yes. Starch absent, yes, because the color did not change. We move on to question number 6. So question number 6, we are told the table below shows the mass of some nutrients found in 100 grams of different food values. So we have beans, bread, cheese, eggs. Which food would be best prevent rickets and scurvy? So scurvy can be prevented by having a meal rich with vitamin C. Then rickets, vitamin D. So meaning from the table we need to choose 2 food values that contains the vitamin C and vitamin D. So we can see that beans has vitamin C, since here we have 0, 0, 0, 0. Then eggs have 1.5 of vitamin D, so is cheese. So the best answer is beans and eggs are the best one. So the answer is D, because in eggs we have vitamin D to prevent rickets. In beans we have vitamin C to prevent the scurvy. We move on to question 7. Which of the following people needs the most energy daily? So energy is required mostly by the young people, so we are going to choose an 8-year-old girl, because as the person is growing up, a lot of energy is required for growth. Right, we move on to question 8. Which mineral nutrient is required by plants for proper formation of roots? Now for this question, we have magnesium, no? Nitrogen is required, phosphorus is required, potassium is required. All these 3, if you just study well, they are required for formation of roots. Now for the best answer here is we'll just go with potassium, but take it in mind that they are all required for formation of roots. Move on to question number 9. The diagram below shows an arrangement of apparatus for an experiment that shows photosynthesis left in sunlight for 5 hours. The leaf was then tested for starch. Now let's have a look at this one. This party was in the presence of sodium hydroxide. So the sodium hydroxide is reacting with carbon dioxide, giving us sodium hydrogen carbonate. So therefore, in this part here, we don't have carbon dioxide. It is absorbed by the presence of sodium hydroxide. Then at this part, it's covered. So at this point, the light is not able to reach the part of the leaf. So the only part that we are expected to have starch is this part, since there is carbon dioxide and sunlight. So X is the only part that we are expecting to have the positive for photosynthesis. So let's look at the multiple choices. After the experiment, what were the colors of the region X, Y, and Z? So X positive, then so the answer is we're going with B. X positive, Y brownie, then Z Z. We move on to question 10. So for question 10, the dental formula of a certain carnivorous is, so we have 3, 3, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. What is the total number of teeth in the lower jaw of this carnivora? So the total number of teeth in the lower jaw. So the focus is in the lower jaw. So the lower jaw is this. So let's add the number. So we have 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1. So 3 plus 1 is 4. 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. Then this number you multiply it by 2. Okay, which is giving us 14. So the answer is B. So the total for the two jaws must be 28. So we move on to question 11. The diagram below shows parts of the alimentary canal. We have parts like esophagus, which is the passage for food. Then we have 2, the stomach. 3, we have pancreas. Pancreas is both endocrine and exocrine. It is under endocrine when it produces the insulin, exocrine when it produces the pancreatic juice. Then 4 is the liver. Liver produces the bile salt. Then 5 is the gallbladder, which temporarily stores the bile salt. Which two structures produces substance involved in the digestion of lipids? So the lipids, we are looking at the fats. So number 1, the liver, we say it produces bile salt. And bile salt helps in the process of emulsification. So 4 is part of the answer. Then 3, which is the pancreatic juice, has the enzymes that completes the digestion of the fat. So the answer is 4 and 3. So let's check from the multiple choices, 4 and 3. So the answer is C. We move on to question 12. The diagram shows the structure of a gill. Okay. What are the functions of the parts labeled X and Y? So X for gaseous exchange, then Y to remove solid particles. So which is B for gaseous exchange, X to remove solid particles for Y. Move on to question 13. Which substances are produced in muscles by aerobic and anaerobic respiration? So aerobic respiration occurs in the presence of oxygen and it gives us the products of carbon dioxide and water. Now for anaerobic respiration occurs in the absence of oxygen and therefore gives us lactic acid, since we are looking at the muscles. So the answer is B. For ethanol, unless if it was in plants. So in plants, somehow it can be considered to be as the process of fermentation. Below is a list of signs and symptoms of a disease: severe diarrhea, dehydration, abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting. So this is should be cholera. So the answer is B. Right, we move on to question 15. The diagram shows a cross section through the root of a plant. Which tissue transports water and mineral salts? So this must be a xylem. So from the given 4 letters, we need to choose the letter corresponding to a xylem. So the answer is just B. So remember, xylem transports water and mineral salts from the soil up to the leaves for photosynthesis to occur. Move on to question 16. The diagrams shows 3 types of blood cells, P, Q, and R. Which of these cells produces antibodies, engulfs bacteria, and are involved in blood clotting? So P has a lobed nucleus. Therefore, this one is involved in engulfing. So P for engulfing. Then Q produces the antibodies. R in blood clotting, because we can see these are just fragments. So the platelets are considered to be the fragments. So you need to remember that. So the answer is B. P for engulfing, R involved in blood clotting, Q produces antibodies. So the antibodies fights against the unwanted materials. Now we move on to question 17. The diagram shows a longitudinal section through a mammalian heart. Which blood vessels carry deoxygenated blood? So what you have to do is this. I'm going to divide this heart into two parts. So everything here, every blood vessel or structure that you can see here has the deoxygenated blood. So that's the best way to remember. Then here must be oxygenated. So the answer should be 3 and 4, which is D. Right, we move on to question 18. The diagram shows parts of the excretory system of a mammal. So 1 is a kidney. Kidney works under urine formation, and also for endocrine system it contains the glands known as adrenal, which secretes the adrenaline that works as to prepare the body against in danger. Then 2 is ureter. So the ureter transports urine from the bladder, from the kidney to the bladder for temporal storage. Then 3 is the bladder. Then the one that excretes urine to the environment is urethra. So be careful, never confuse ureter and urethra. Urethra, that one takes out to the environment. So 1 is bladder, 2 ureter, 1 is kidney, 2 ureter, 3 bladder, 4 urethra. So the answer is C. Move on to question number 19. Where is the hormone insulin produced and what is its site of action? So the insulin is the hormone produced by the pancreas, and its main target is to lower the the glucose in blood. So it converts glucose into its storage form called the glycogen. So the site of production is pancreas, then the site of action or its targeted organ is the liver. So the liver and the muscles, in case you encounter muscles, can also be the answer. We move on to question 20. So question 20, a conditioned reflex differs from a spinal reflex because the conditioned, these are actions that are acquired by learning and also by repeating a certain activity. So any activity that you've learned, like reading, riding a bicycle, driving a car, all those are learned activities. They are all conditioned. Then the spinal reflex, these are reflex that happens without our consent. They are automatic. So the difference is that these are learned, but these are just automatic and natural. So the answer is C, has been modified by past experience. Past experience has to do with learning. So we move on to question 21. Question 21, before we look at 21, for online tuitions, this is my line. Please feel free to reach me on this. It's just 100 kwacha for biology. So let's look at question 21. The diagram below shows a section of the human brain. Which of the labeled parts is responsible for memory? So memory has to do with cerebrum. Don't confuse cerebrum with cerebellum. Cerebellum has to do with the activities that involves balances like dancing, playing musical instruments. So the C is cerebellum. Then the D is medulla oblongata. Then our A is pituitary. Pituitary has to do with the master gland that secretes hormones. So the answer here is just B. Right, so we move on to question 22. So question 22, which parts of the ear transmits vibration from the outer ear to the inner ear? So we have the largest bone in the human body is the femur or the thigh bone, but the smallest bones are found in the human ear, and these are the ones that transmits vibrations from the outer into the inner, which is the ossicles. That's our answer. Question 23. So under question 23, it's a bit of locomotion, or we can just say it's locomotion. I mean skeletal system. The diagram below shows muscles and bones of the upper arm. P is the humerus. R, biceps. So the one on front are biceps. Then Q, radius. Then the larger one is ulna. Then this muscle behind is tricep. So let's look at the question. Which of the following correctly identifies bones P and Q and muscle R? So P is humerus, Q radius, R biceps. So the answer is A. We move on to question 24. An experiment was carried out to investigate growth response in a male seedling plant as shown in the diagram below. So at the beginning, after 5 days, what type of response was being investigated above? So as you can see, the growth was toward light. There was no bending. So since it was toward light, number one, it's positive. Now what type of response is toward light is phototropism. So this response is a positive phototropism, which is a D, since there was no bending and the response was toward the stimulus. The diagram below shows differentiated cells, right? Then which of the cells A, B, C, and D above are the parenchyma cells? So the parenchyma cells are cells with function like storage of sugars, transportation of water. So for this one, the answer is D. We move on to question number 26. The diagram shows two germinated seeds. What type of germination is illustrated in P and Q? So we have epigyle and hypogyle. Now, these are cotyledons. So for this one, the cotyledons will appear above the ground, but for this one, the cotyledon remains below the ground. So for you to maybe summarize this, what you need to know is, I want you to master this. Epi above or out, hypo below. That's the best way to remember. So P is epigyle because the cotyledons are able to go out. Then hypo, they are able to remain down. So that's the best way to remember. Hypo below, epi above. We move on to question number 27. Which of the following asexual methods of reproduction is used in propagating sweet potatoes? Rhizomes, no root tubers. So for sweet potatoes, we need to cut the stems, so that those are stem tubers. Then we move on to question 28. After a plant has produced flowers, which of the following is the correct sequence of events that follow? So number one is pollination. You need first to have pollination. Why? Pollination is defined as the transfer of pollen grains from the anthers, which is the male part, to the stigma, which is the female part. Then after pollination is where you are going to have fertilization, because for male sex cells to fuse with the female sex cells, they need to move. Then after that, we have the seed formation. So always, pollination comes before fertilization. Question 29. Which of the following is an important reason for seed dispersal? Number one, it causes the development of a fruit, no? It makes seeds more fertile, no? It prevents asexual reproduction. It reduces competition, yes. It reduces competition between seedlings, because seed dispersal is defined as the scattering of seed, like the spreading over a wide area. So since they are spreading over a wide area, they won't be able to grow at the same place, and because of that, the competition is reduced. Question 30. Which of the following causes of infertility results from having multiple sexual partners? So the answer is D. So having the multiple sexual partners will bring the STI. Then there are some of these STIs that can make someone to become infertile. So that was the point behind this question. Move on to question 31. The diagram below shows a developing fetus in the uterus. Where does the blood become oxygenated? So it has to be the placenta. The placenta is where the exchange of materials between the mother and the fetus occur, which is D. Move on to question 32. Which of the following birth control methods can affect the secretion of the follicle stimulating hormone in the pituitary gland? So as long as it has to do with hormones, then it has to be oral contraceptive pills, the pills, because these other three methods does not involve hormones. It has to do with like device. So pills has to do with hormones, and therefore it can make someone to have hormonal imbalances. 33. Which of the following results from meiosis? So meiosis gives us what we call the haploid. The haploid is half of the number of 46 chromosomes, which is 23. And cells with 23 are the gametes, or the sex cells. So meiosis deals with the production of gametes, because the gametes have the haploid number of chromosomes. 34. The genotypes of a human albino is recessive, right? Two normal parents have an albino child. What is the percentage of their next child also being an albino? So I'm going to use letters to represent this. So since we are told for us to have the albino condition, it has to be recessive. So same letters but small letters. So the two parents must be heterozygous, because they were normal but he had a child with this condition. So I'm going to use capital letter A for normal, small letter A for albinism. Capital letter A for normal, small letter A for albinism. So if we cross, they have the chance of having a normal who is homozygous, then a normal who is heterozygous, another normal but heterozygous. So the chance to have an albino is just 1. So it's 1/4 multiplied by 100%, giving us 25%. So the answer is A. So this is how you calculate the percentage. For more videos, join the online classes. Then we have the diagram shows the organisms which belong to the phylum Arthropoda. Right? So which class do these organisms belong to? So X is an insect. So X is insecta. So the answer is just D. So you can use one organism to give you the answer, as long as we can see that here we don't have that. So it's insecta. Move on to question 36. Question 36. Which of the following correctly identifies the causes of loss of fertility? Deforestation, yes, it does. Lead burning, it does. Leaching, it does. Weeding, no. Weeding is the removal of wheat, and this can make the the soil to become more fertile. So we move on to question 37. The diagram below shows a food chain, okay, at which points the body P, Q, and R is energy loss. So here there is energy loss, even here there is energy loss, even here energy loss. So as long as the energy is moving from one organism to another, there is energy loss. So the answer is just C, D. Which of the following factors increases the size of a population? Bushfire, no. Emigration, since there is a E, is the leaving of a country, so this one no, decreases population. Over harvesting, yes, when we have over harvesting, it means there is too much food, and because of that we may have the increase in population. Then we have question 39. The diagram shows parts of the water cycle. Water vapor in the atmosphere. Which of the following returns most water to the atmosphere? So this has to be evaporation from the sea, because now transpiration, no. After evaporation, followed by transpiration, then last respiration. So we move on to the last one. Which of the following can lead to global warming? Deforestation, no. Burning of fossil fuels, yes. So this is how we can answer questions like this. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.